You got Ken Woody and Bill Luca. You're a rock star.
Whenever you're ready, Lisa.
All right, so it's just at the top of the hour. I just know we're going to have a ton of more people streaming in, but welcome to the New England Region RRC Mastermind Monday for Monday, May 9th. I'm super excited to welcome our special guests. I want to first give a little shout out to the team that's here today. Nora Lynch, our president-elect. Michelle Hagstrom is one of our finance chairs. Ann Enos is special events and sponsors and also works with our network directors. And I think at the moment, that is our team. I know more will be coming on. Kurt Thompson, who had been an RVP, and actually I'm going to do a shout out and thanks to Kurt in a moment. I'll do it now. Congratulations, Kurt. Kurt was awarded at the board meeting on Friday. It was announced that Kurt is going to be part of Kenny Parcells' 2023 leadership team, which is an amazing thing, an amazing service to our members. And it's well deserved. Congratulations, Kurt, for sure.
Thank you, Lisa.
So let me not waste one more minute of our precious 30 minutes here in introducing Kevin Sears, who is our very special guest today. When I had originally asked Kevin, I had to get special permission because I knew Kevin was in the campaigning, in campaign mode, and there was a lot of regulations and restrictions around who can do what. And surely we didn't want to get disqualified because he was coming on Mastermind Monday for New England Region RRC. So because it was after the election, we were allowed to do that. And I kind of always knew in my heart we would be making this amazing announcement, which is that Kevin Sears was in fact overwhelmingly elected on Friday at the National Board of Directors meeting as the first vice president in 2023, which means that Kevin will be the president-elect in 2024, and he will be our National Association of Realtors, I just got goosebumps, I'm not even kidding you, National Association of Realtors president in 2025. I don't believe anyone from the great state of Massachusetts, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, has ever served as a national president. So excited.
We had Gil Woods back in 94, 95. He was president.
Okay, so the second in recorded history of a Massachusetts a realtor being the National Association of Realtors president. We're so excited. Kevin has an amazing advocacy background. He just, he has his own brokerage. So he's got Sears Real Estate in the Springfield area, been a realtor for a very long time and contributing at every level, father, son, Papa, all those wonderful things. But I asked him to speak today, first of all, just about the excitement, like just share a little bit about your excitement, but then also about our 2022 advocacy agenda, which is hugely important for all of us. And we'd like to continue to raise the visibility and perspective for all realtors about who we are in the RPAC and the difference that we are trying to make for homeowners across the country.
Well, thanks, Lisa. And it's my honor to be with New England CRS family. I'm seeing the names popping on here and so many friends. So it's great to see you. And I hope you all who are in DC are staying healthy because I know dozens of people that have tested positive so far for COVID. And all I'm going to say, and it's going to sound selfish, but thank God it happened after the election. Yeah, Shannon's laughing at that. I figured. So, but no, thank you all. I know that you've all been involved with your various associations, and it really was a team effort. And I would not be sitting here as the first vice president-elect if not for all the efforts of New England Realtors. So thank you. So what I'm going to do, and Lisa wanted to talk about our advocacy agenda and then RPAC. So I've got a few things because I don't think everybody on the call was in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to share my screen and let's share this one.
And then we are going to leave a couple minutes for questions if we can at the end, guys. So jot down your questions as we go through if you have specific questions of Kevin and or about our legislative agenda.
All right. And so here is the April fundraising recap. And we've got a goal for 2022 of 45 million nationwide. Last year, our goal was 39 million. And so we're well ahead of where we were last year. We've already raised 27 million, over 27 million through April. And so those are great numbers. I think that the biggest key is participation goal. Last year, the goal was 37%, and it was the first time in recorded history that we actually made our participation goal in RPAC. And in order to be considered a participant, a member would need to invest a minimum of $15. Depending on which state you are, in Massachusetts, we have a minimum of 25 for fair share, but really at the NAR level, it's $15 and you're recognized. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but that is such an easy amount to ask our members to invest in RPAC. And then major investor goal, we are well on our way to our major investor goal of just shy of 11,000. And I think President Circle, which is a different program, we can talk about that later on. But I think that we're going to smash those numbers. Oh, we already have. We've already beaten our goal. So we're well on the way. So let's talk about, let's see, no, we don't need that. Well, all right, real quick. Here is the New England numbers as they currently sit. So we've got, right at the top, each of your states and what the goals are. So, and I can share this info with Lisa if anybody needs it moving forward. But here we have our priority issues for the legislative meetings. What did we want to talk about with our members of Congress? And the first thing was addressing affordability and the housing shortage. We've had some serious issues. One of the things is that the lack of inventory is a local issue. And so it was interesting for me to see us saying, let's have the conversation with our federal legislators about how we can get some inventory for our members and the consumers to be able to purchase. And because when I think about inventory shortage, it's all local, but we need to alleviate some of the pressures at the local level so that we can build more and put more new housing construction out there. But really, when it comes down to it, we are asking our legislators to think about how can they incentivize the changing of some of our inventory that we have. And one of the things is revitalizing some shopping centers. Is there any way that we can put some housing in old shopping centers that, we all know that malls are dying quicker than they were being built back in the 80s. When one of the things, and actually an interesting conversation, and Joe Harris, one of our vice presidents at the National Association of Realtors, he talked about, I was in DC in March, met with Congressman Neal. And one of the things we talked about was, would Congress have any appetite at alleviating some of the capital gains on small investors, mom and pop investors, fewer than, a dozen units or whatever it is, that if they were to put their properties on the market to sell, which would help with our inventory shortage, could they get some tax benefits? And he was certainly open to that idea. There's more that has to be done to fine tune that idea, but it's, he's recognizing how challenging things are in our market right now. Fair housing, ensuring fair housing for all. There are a couple of different things that we want to do. And if you were at the board of directors meeting on Friday, we talked about that and making sure that people had access to credit, and there were fair housing issues in the access to credit. And then the last thing was on the priority issues. The last one I want to talk about is the congressional district and state reports. Now, if you have a relationship with your member of Congress through RPR, we can get data for their very specific congressional district. One of the things that the National Association has done is a report on what each transaction represents in economic activity in each state. So we'd be able to get it for all 6 New England states, but also nationally. And roughly it's for every single unit sold, every transaction, that represents approximately $100,000 worth of economic activity in the local community. And so So we're part of it. We're getting paid. Their attorneys getting paid. The banks and mortgage companies making money, and then after that, the consumer spending money for rehab purposes, if you will, or buying new appliances, hiring painters, plumbers, electricians. And so it's very important for our elected officials to know how important the housing industry is, because we represent roughly 20% of GDP, gross domestic product. And anytime they talk about interfering or taxing, housing or real estate, I should say, that could have a potential negative impact on our economy. And so we just need to make sure that that we point that out. And then here is what our advocacy agenda is for 2022. It's 10 pages full of items. Some of the things that we're going to be talked about on here is preserving the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, getting Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac out of conservatorship, making sure that we have affordable property insurance for homeowners. And it's more than just flood insurance. We're having conversations about natural disaster insurance, but really the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, is the main talking point because we're on to our, I think, 18th or 19th short-term extension, which is not good for the country. One of the things when we're having the conversation with our elected officials, this is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democratic issue. It's an American issue. And I think that's really the key for having the conversation. Let's see. Just want to see ensuring fair housing for all, enable quick economic recovery after COVID-19. Our legislative staff in Washington, D.C. has done a great job putting together all different sorts of issues that will help the members. But Lisa, I mean, at this point, and I know that you already mentioned it, Kurt is on the call. I saw Joe Luca, Shannon's on the call. We have so many of our members that are involved. I'm happy to open it up to questions, or make it more of a conversation than me continuing to talk, because I think 10 minutes is enough time. And I'm amazed that I still have my voice after last week. That was a concern.
I know for sure. That was that last runway was kind of I know it was 24/7 for sure, because everywhere I turned, there you were too. So I know it wasn't easy. Okay, so just like backing up a little bit. So typically when we go to legislative meetings, for those of you that have not participated in the past, we've been able to schedule and organize visits with our representatives, both in the House and Senate. And last couple of years we weren't even able to go. And this year there was a variety of formats. Many states were having in person, although the numbers were quite small, but our state, for the most part, was having virtual Zoom meetings, and they had an actual lounge for the federal political coordinators, of which Kevin is one for Richie Neal. So we were able to sit in with our legislators and kind of review these documents, which we'd gotten to their staff in advance, and then kind of hit some highlights. And just like when my very first visit, Kevin, and everybody who's ever been there, and when I actually stepped up to the investment level I do, you sit in this small room of 4, 5, 6, 8, 12 people, and you bring up specific issues. One of the ones I love is that House 5041, which is the mall revitalization bill. And you see, like, they're not aware of this at all. They haven't heard about it at all. And you suddenly realize, oh my God, this is really how it works. Small groups of constituents bringing up these issues to them and why they impact our businesses and our livelihoods. And if you're not there to make those points to legislators, they don't know. It's not as if many times that they would not support your legislative priority. It's that they really are not aware of it. So that was one thing, again, that always just, throws me. Kevin, can you give me some sense of how you feel these landed, the major legislative priorities of inventory, fair housing? How do you feel like they landed this time? Any different? Same?
So Lisa, I'm going to have to be completely honest with you because I always am. With the campaign, I was disconnected from the Hill. I see that Paul York is on, Ann Meswar, Ken Libby. So I'd love to have any of them jump in that might have actually made Hill visits, because since I met with Congressman Neal in March and talking with the senior staff at NAR, they said you do not have to meet with him this week while you're in DC. So I'd love to hear from some of the other folks that might have been in some of the meetings that we had, because I don't have the answer to your specific question.
Hey,
All right.
Kevin, do you want to stop sharing and we can see
Yeah.
everyone?
Oh,
That way
I'm
we
sorry.
can. It's all good.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Now let me figure this out.
We'll offer training sessions later. if you
One
want.
participant can share. Oh, stop. No, that's stop
Perfect.
video.
Stop sharing at the bottom, usually. Green button.
Oh, stop share. Got it.
Perfect.
There we are. There we are. All right. So yeah, I mean, I actually was on a meeting with Congressman Lynch and with Senator Markey. I was invited to two small groups, and I'm happy to share about that. But instead of listening to me, also anybody else have a Hill visit that really brought some of these issues forward. I would love to hear what those conversations were like, because again, this is kind of how, from a vegetarian though, how the sausage is made. It's in those small rooms when you're really talking to staff and sometimes talking to the actual legislators about what is important to realtors at this time. So Kurt and Shannon, anybody want to jump in who actually had Christine, who's actually was in visits? Kurt, go.
I was going to say, I have some insight. I was unfortunately not in the visits myself either. The election cycle, there was a lot of things happening between that and committee meetings. The one thing I was going to throw out there, though, is we all know, and a lot of those people that are here on the call today, you've been empowered, you're in charge, you get this, you know what our important priorities are. We talk about vote, act, and invest, and I'm going to add one word to that as well, which is engage. We have such an important job as we're talking about these critical aspects of what we're engaging in right now. It's housing inventory, looking at opportunities to be able to get additional inventory into the marketplace, conversion from commercial to residential, or other opportunities for us to be able to get people into housing that deserve to feel home ownership. A lot of what we can also do, which is very easy, is engage our peers, our fellow realtors that are having these conversations on a daily basis, either with other realtors or with consumers, so that they know what these important issues are. And as we need to mobilize either our fellow realtors or the consumer base, we've already established the relationships to get people mobilized around key legislative agenda items and other initiatives we need to move forward to improve that environment.
I can jump in on something, Lisa, if you want.
Absolutely, Shannon, please do.
And hi. So I was also very busy on this trip, but I was assisting Kevin. So, but I will say that last night I was poking around because I had a morning meeting this morning and I wanted to share some bites from last week. And if you even Google NAR legislative and you go to the conference page, all of the presentations from the week are now uploaded. So Lawrence Yoon has a wonderful one that includes stats about inflation and, all kinds of things. There's a lot of information on there. I'm hoping that they make some of those sessions available to us down the road. I didn't see any recordings, but the PowerPoints are very impressive. And there's a lot of good information in there. So if you're looking for some more meat, I would check those out. You can download them and, share them with your offices or, anyone that you're in touch with. Ken Libby is on the line here today with us too, from Vermont. He's a DSA from Vermont, and he may have some insight for us too.
Okay, on the spot there, Mr. Libby, do you have anything you'd like to share about legislative meetings last week and reception and how things were received by the legislators?
I'll make it quick because I serve on Federal Taxation Committee and they were meeting at the time we did our Hill visits. So I did not make it. However, in keeping with what Kevin talked about with trying to move some inventory, one of the things that we talked about at length at federal taxation. And we will be putting this into some form of a policy over the next 2 or 3 months. One of the real issues that we see around the country for moving inventory is the capital gains on primary home sales that are forcing people not to sell, particularly the people in the upper age brackets. If people bought their house before the year 2000, they are 52% above the gain exclusion. That's an enormous amount. And so they'd have capital gains tax on 52% of their gain. What we probably are going to come out with, and what we talked about at length, is requesting a exemption on capital gains for primary home sales if they're sold to another primary home sale, and if the seller is Social Security qualified. And that could mean a disabled veteran or somebody under the age of Social Security if they're qualified. We also talked at length about the SALT tax, which was another one of the issues on moving some inventory. So that's about all I have. I understand the meetings went very well with our contingent, but I was not present.
Yeah, and Lisa, let me just jump in here. And we talked about ensuring fair housing for all and affordability for inventory. There's two things that I want to point out. One is the typical homeowner has a net worth of 50 times that of a typical renter. So think about that. I'll say it again. A typical homeowner has a net worth 50 times that of a typical renter. Typical renter's net worth is somewhere around 5,000, which means a typical homeowner's net worth is around 250,000. And those statistics are a year and a half or two old, but they've got to play through pretty consistently. And so when we talk about generational wealth and how do we create that, we need to generate more affordable housing, ensuring fair housing for all. And the point is this: the black-white home ownership gap has grown and is larger now than it was before the Fair Housing Act was enacted over 50 years ago. And so when you think about how we can improve society in our communities, it's through home ownership. And we need to make sure that that we have as wide a group as possible that want to buy a home, that can buy a home. Just because statistically, children of parents or parents that own a home, they do better in school, they are healthier, and they live in safer neighborhoods. And so, think about the impact on your communities, where if they were homeowners instead of rental properties. And I say that fully acknowledging the fact I'm in the rental business. That is a key part of my company business. But I recognize that and I promote that because we need more housing available at all levels. And to Ken's point, there are people that want to move into that final home, and maybe those folks need to downsize. But when one group isn't selling, it impacts all the other groups below them. And then the only other thing I'll talk about, because I know Lisa wanted to go back, and we need to circle back to RPAC, is how many people were able to have any transactions during 2020 or 2021 when COVID was rampant? Please raise your hand. Yeah, okay, it looks like all the hands are going up. That is a direct result of the efforts of RPAC. I don't know for all of the New England states how quickly you were deemed essential, but every single one of you at one point, I think it was sooner than later, were deemed essential, and we could continue to do our business and serve our customers and clients. That is a direct testament to RPAC. The second thing I'll point out is last year during the infrastructure bill and the Build Back Better, they went to reconciliation, and my member at Congress, Congressman Neal, chair of Ways and Means, oversaw the reconciliation bill. And there's a very specific reason why the 1031 like-kind exchange was off the table, and that maintains that the capital gains rate, was essentially untouched. That they were talking about taxing unrealized gains. That was off the table. And then there was one other thing, step-up basis. So real estate, we came out of that reconciliation bill largely unscathed as a direct result of RPAC. And that helps our customers, our clients, and our livelihoods. So as you're talking with your colleagues, because I know you're all RPAC warriors here, but as you're talking to your colleagues, just talk about being able to operate your business during the pandemic, and the fact that real estate was largely left intact or unscathed through all of those bills last year. And since you are RPAC supporters already, if you're at the $99 level, think about going up to $250. If you're $250, $500, because just real estate has been very good to many of us. And let's just look and see what's the highest level that you can go to. And Lisa, I'm going to let you take it from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that sort of plug for the Vote, Act, Invest, and I love Kurt adding engage, because this is what makes our business possible. This is what makes us be able to live the lifestyle and work with clients and kind of have the kind of entrepreneurial business that we have, because there are all these folks legislating for homeowners and personal property rights, both at the local, state, and national level. And our Realtor Political Action Committee investments facilitate all of that. And if I can just say one more thing on that, I said it way before the times like this, but Paul Yorkis, who's on this call, taught me that there are no D's and R's. There's only the Realtor Party. And it's a way that we can continue to find common ground. And in these times, especially now, isn't that a breath of fresh air, that we can continue to find issues? It doesn't matter if you're a D or an R. We need to come together, meet in the middle of the aisle, and we can be way showers and lights for that pathway. So I'll get off that.
Lisa.
Yes, Paul.
Lisa, Paul, could I share some
Absolutely.
information?
Sure.
And I think Kevin, I hope, will comment about this as well. President Leslie has appointed a presidential advisory group, which has as its main task identifying opportunities to create more housing. I am privileged to be serving on that group, as is Craig Foley and Anthony Lamacchia. It is absolutely essential that if anybody on this Zoom has an idea on how to create more housing, whether you may believe that idea has already been considered, I would really like you to please share that idea. Because the members of this PAG don't have all the knowledge in the world, and each one of you have knowledge and experience, and you may have an idea. And I want to give you an example of one idea. We know the construction industry is short of labor. And so one of the ideas that is being considered, and this is in its infancy, is talking with the Secretary of Labor and the Secretary of the Department of Defense to see if to help the 250,000 service members who leave the service annually, who have a military occupational specialty that relates to the construction industry, to fast track them into getting an apprentice license or a CDL driver's license relating to the construction industry. And while that's not in our everyday line of work, if we can get more people in the construction industry, that can help contribute to more new construction. So any ideas that anybody has, please let myself or Anthony or Craig Foley know so that we can share them with that PAG. And Kevin, any ideas?
Yeah, I just think that it's even if you don't know how to get a hold of Paul, Anthony, or Craig, if you send it out to this group, they'll be able to, yeah, Lisa's waving, they'll be able to get it to the people that are on the PAG and might be sitting on the committees. But no, I mean, that's exactly it, Paul, is that we all need to be active participants in trying to solve this problem. But for me, it really starts at our local communities, because we've got to make sure that we have city councils and zoning boards that say, what is the highest and best use for the land, that limited resource that we have left. David Waluka is a wonderful resource for us, not only in Massachusetts and New England, but across the country when it comes to smart growth and redeveloping outdated old properties into modern space for whether it's commercial, retail, but also adding in residential. So there's a tremendous amount of resources available on Common Ground. Is a great magazine that you can share with your elected officials and regulators about the resources available through the Realtor Association. And it's all levels of the association. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
thank you. So we do have a couple of links in the chat. If everybody wants to check real quickly, there's the link to these legislative priorities, that document. Shannon posted some great stuff. Maybe people could mute if they're not talking. Shannon posted some of that statistical information from NAR as well. So we are right at the hour, at the half an hour, but I want to open it up. If there's one or two quick questions for Kevin, we're not going to get to grab him back probably too soon. Anyone got kind of a burning question that they would like to ask or throw out there? No?
Hey, Lisa, I have a question.
Okay, hey,
It's
Marie, I can always count on you for a question.
Hi, Kevin. Good to see you again. Congratulations. I'm driving, so it's better for me not to be on video, but I did want to ask regarding this, and Ken Libby might want to chime in here too, because he mentioned the state and local income tax. I know that we've been trying to convince our congressman to consider, if we're married, to be able to double that that $10,000 benefit, because I know it had went from unlimited to all of a sudden 10,000. I don't know where we're at with that and where it's at, but I don't know if you know that and you could comment. That'd be great.
Yeah, and Marie, it's more than just salt. They didn't index when they increased the standard deduction. They didn't index that for inflation. So while it went from 12,500 to 24,500, 1 year, that's a huge amount, but that went into effect in 17 or 18. Well, 10 years later, it's not going to have the same value, especially with the inflation that we're seeing now. So we're talking about indexing things like that. To Ken's point about the capital gains and on primary residence, that's those numbers, given the housing market, are shrinking. Is shrinking based on the way the values are exploding. And then SALT, we talked about that, the marriage penalty. But the reality is this: right now, we don't see any tax legislation going through. And if we open up the door for some of that stuff, then other bad stuff might find their way in. And I think the biggest thing for us to remember is that while it's super important on the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, West Coast, California in particular, and then only in the middle of the country around Chicago, in that area, the Great Lakes, the rest of the country, salt is not an issue for them. And I hate to say it, but if you put up a heat map of counties that voted for President Biden compared to counties that voted for Trump, the great expanse of the country. Actually, it goes back to the Clinton-Trump was a better one, but a great expanse of the country that showed as red as counties that voted for Trump, salt is not a factor for them. Mm-hmm. And so it's really pocketed around the very liberal areas in California and the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. And the rest of the country, they don't care. They don't. But when we talk about, we have to be careful about talking about fairness in taxing. because fair to us is different than fair to others. And you didn't use that word, Marie, I did. But we try and say the marriage penalty, because there have been other issues that have been subject to the marriage penalty as well. So, but they're on the radar.
That's the reason I haven't gotten married. That's the whole reason, of course. I've been engaged for 8 years and not going to get married because I would give up the state and local income tax for both Eddie and I. I'm just joking, but I said that to my congressman. So
yeah, so Marie, it's funny you said that, because when we had a meeting with Congressman Neal a few years ago, Peter Ruffini and Dawn were engaged at the time, and he said, "Come on, Congressman Neal, change that so we can get married." Well, I guess it wasn't up to the congressman; it was more up to Dawn.
All right, one last question. Kurt Thompson, can you wrap us up, please?
Absolutely. Just a huge thank you, Kevin. Kevin has always been such an incredible advocate for all of the realtors across all 6 New England states, and continues to be. Thank you for all that you've done for us as realtors. Thank you for all that you will do in the future. And we just are so incredibly proud to have you as a future leader of our organization.
Well, thank you, Ben, and thank you, Ben. Thank you, Kurt. And thank you, the rest of the Realtor family. It's been a great experience. I know I'm only midway through the journey, and I love the fact that you guys are all get to come along for the ride. So anything I can do within my power, please know that I will do it. And Lisa, you just keep inviting me, and we'll keep making these conversations happen.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I will. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you got some value from today. Reach out to any of us. Obviously, it's easy to find me. If we can get you any information that you haven't gotten today, legislative priorities, info about RPAC, Kevin Sears' personal home phone number. No. And we just want to thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in. And next month, the 13th of June, is Debbie Yost about systems. I know everyone loves Debbie and loves to hear about systems. So you'll hear some more about that. We look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you, Lisa.